Hi, and welcome to this live Q&A with James and John and the author Peter Orullian. Today we're going to talk about the new book that Peter has coming out, which is the adaptation of the Metropolis Part 2 Scenes from a Memory album done into a book, kind of like what he did to the book that you can see behind me here, The Astonishing. We're looking forward to hearing what their plan is for this book. So now I'm going to bring in all three mentioned players into the field. So here we go. There's James. There's John.
Yo.
Finally, Peter.
Greetings.
Yeah.
So,
right.
how is everyone doing?
We're doing good.
Great.
We're
doing
really
great.
good.
Doing well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
How are you, Kim Arthur?
I'm doing very good.
Nice.
It's been a long while since the last time we did this stream. I think it was for the A View for from the Top of the World album. So it's been a while.
Wow.
So a little backstory with regards to myself. When I got involved into Dream Theater fandom and all that, it was actually right before the release of Scenes from a Memory, because I was joining the live chat that was on your website that Mark Bredius hosted at that time. So I was always there. So Mark asked me and some other people to join in as the moderation team to help make the place a safe environment for other users to chat in. So since we were there for the Metropolis Part 2 release, we also got to see the live exchange of ideas of what the plot is, and people starting doing their own fan fiction of all this stuff. So 25 years ago now, almost, since that time. So that's how long I've been working for you guys.
That is so cool, though. That's awesome. And you know what? And you're still doing an incredible job. Wow, man, 25 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was just a kid. Now I'm an old man.
Wow.
That's incredible.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
45, I guess.
Yeah. Cool.
So first I wanted to ask, why exactly did you decide to do this book now?
Well, it's been something that we've been talking to Peter about for a while. The possibility of doing a book like this. And Peter, you could probably speak more to kind of the fan sort of interest in this that you've experienced through the years. But as far as it coming out, when it's coming out, we thought that having it coincide with the 25th anniversary of the release of Scenes from a Memory would be just a great way to sort of commemorate that anniversary. So that's when the book is coming out. The timing seemed right to do it now.
Yeah, the idea first came into my, I guess, idea world is after Astonishing, the fans love the record, and so I started getting emails saying, "Is there any chance that that album would ever be made into a book?" And so I remember shooting John an email, and I thought it was a good idea, but I even put this in my foreword to the book. Is it so much about what you do is the right timing, and so the idea has been there for a long time, and the story and the album are so great that it almost begged for it, but it just needed to be done at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the process like when you start working on a book like this? Of course, you have the lyrics as source material. You have the live show that they did for Metropolis 2000 with all the film segments. And then, of course, you have the authors of the story at hand. How do you do this process of writing the story and adapting it into a more full story like a book is?
Do you want to take that, John, or do you want me to?
No, you take it. You're the author.
Okay. Well, I've been asked just in circles, like, did you have any trepidation because the record is so beloved? And the truth is, I didn't really have any trepidation. I approached it very seriously, because as much as I've become friends with guys in the group, um, I'm a fan, and I wanted to be sure I did justice to it, at least as so far as my capabilities would allow. So I read voraciously the online ideas of what the plot is, and there's a lot of them. I remember even sending a note over once. I had read some things and I said, some of these things aren't consistent with each other. And John's like, oh, you're right. That's not exactly right, is it? So I took as much in as I could from the conversation around the book, or excuse me, around the story. But the thing is I have in my workstation, I've got 3 computer screens, and I do that so that I can have lots of things open at the same time when I'm working. And I always had the album up so that I could be listening to the album, because I always went back to the album as the source of truth. And by the way, James, this is also in the vocals, even into the emotions that are elicited by how you would deliver a phrase. I'm very nerdy this way, but I would listen and listen and listen to the record, to the words that were being communicated, to the musical phrases, to try and use those to inspire images in my head. I know that sounds like so cliche for me to say, images and words, but that's what I did, because I always wanted the story to harmonize with the record. Now, it will be imperfect for some fans, I'm sure, because everybody's got an idea, but that was always my source of truth. Then, of course, I had conversations, a lot of conversations with John in particular, ideation. So there's a lot of groundwork before I even attempted to start writing it. And then I would always have the lyrics up. There were places where I would look and read a lyric again and again and again, and I would listen to how James sang the lyric before I tried to figure out how that would represent in the novel. Because it's important to me to be very faithful to the experience of the record. And then once I had all of that, and that took months, once I had all of that, then I built a very exhaustive outline. And then I used the outline kind of like you would a coloring page. I still colored outside those lines when there was creative things that needed to be done. But once I had that, then the writing flowed pretty well, because I'd done so much background work with the guys, and especially with the music.
You know what? That's not surprising to me, Peter, because I've read your books, right? Like I said to you, and I remember reading the Unremembered. Am I correct?
Yep.
And you used a lot of those metaphors, like with music and resonance, and so I can totally see you getting in to not only the words but the emotion, how evocative it is, and then taking that and then adding to that within the storytelling, which when I read this book, and I told John this, and I told you this, and my wife's already read it. It's amazing, But I love the additional characters to really bring so many more plots to what's going on within the story. And it just made the ride from beginning to end. The way that you open up the book and he's in the studio, I don't want to give it away, but the way that you open it up. And I told John this, within 2 pages, I'm like, let's go. Like, I mean, I was already there. Okay, who is this? Even though I know the story, I loved how you opened it up and where you were going with it. And I was like, I was so excited. Like, let's go, man. I want to see how this unfolds from your vantage point. And being such a big fan too. And John, I'm sure you'll agree, was so invaluable to having you write the book, not just some author coming in and going, oh yeah, man, I'll look into it. I'll do my background. And no diss to them, because everyone, if they're a great storyteller, they've gotten there because they do the research, because they put the time into it, and that's what makes them an amazing artist. But having you as a fan for so many years, it was kind of like you're already eating and breathing this, and you have been for quite some time. And I'm telling you, and I'm not just saying this because this is part of our history, like John and I and the rest of the band, but just reading that book, and you took it to a whole new level. And then obviously having John to be able to bounce ideas, and John, as the kind of person that he is, has always a million ideas going on. So to bring that to life, seriously, I'm a fan of the book, not just being a part of Dream Theater.
Yeah.
So hats off to you, man. Seriously.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, man. Oh
my God.
It's like, it was so much fun talking to Peter about it, because we had so many brainstorming sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously we have experience with working with Peter as he wrote the novel to The Astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
And The Astonishing was a lot more of a developed story with characters and settings and things like that. There was a whole short story that I had written before. And from that, he was able to build this massive world and all these like backstories and things that were just so incredible. I'd be getting the chills as I read it. However, in the case of Scenes from Memory, that the story is really, it's only the lyrics. And so there are so many, it doesn't have like the rich character development, doesn't have like a lot of backstory. So when Peter and I were talking about this, one of the things that was really exciting was thinking about the past life year being in the 1920s and all of the things that were going on at that point in time. And we were like, we could draw off of this and that. And there was so many like really interesting, like, life-changing things that happened. And Peter, like, he weaves those things into the book. So
like, I don't know if I can even talk
really
about
feels like
like John, you're sorry, I did, but I don't even know if I can mention some of the characters' names, but I know exactly what you're talking about in that era that really brought it to life. You're talking about like 1928 and stuff like that, but all the inclusion and the characters that just brought it to another dimension and just made the storytelling just so much more profound.
Yeah, the brainstorming sessions were, I took extensive notes. I think I had almost 20 pages of notes, John, single spaced. I was typing badly while, the conversations were going. But, at a high level, without divulging too much, we talked about things like enriching the conflict between Julian and Edward. What would it look like if it was something more than only a love triangle? And then Victoria herself, like, who was she? And breathing life into her, and her story is so tragic, but there was the opportunity to show you why it was so tragic beyond just the fact of her death. And then once we had those ideas, layering that on top of all of the cool vibes of the 1920s and 1928 in particular, for me as a writer, was so much fun, because and I don't know if the guys knew this when they picked that year, but when I researched the 1920s, I don't know if I told the guys this. There's so much explosion of technology and culture in the 20s, but 1928 turned out to be this amazing year to pick, because there was all of these little precursors right before. So it was either really wonderful, like uh, uh, designed by you guys, or so fortuitous, because so many of the things I got to include happened because it happened in 1928, and because of that, there's a lot of the novel that takes place in that year.
Very good.
So I had a question from an viewer posting yesterday. Laszlo Roberts asked if the original Metropolis Part 1 has any play into this story, because of course the the first song is more like abstract and not like super detailed, but then you have Metropolis Part 2, which is a very detailed story. So how does like the nicknames for the characters, for instance, which is the Miracle and the Sleeper, does that play into this book at all? Like how these names came to be?
Well, I can tell from my perspective, a lot of the conversations I've had over the years around dream theater narrative uh, has evolved into the notion of there being this universe of Metropolis. Um, and the guys could tell a million like what is it, a million stories in the Naked City from that old TV show. You could tell a million stories in that city. It's so rife with opportunity. And so when I approached scenes, I really tried to focus just on that record. Um, I, 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 I created lots of opportunities for storytelling, and people I hope will find it a very rich and fertile book. But it is there's no intended like hey, that if you knew this from Metropolis One, you understand this better in Metropolis the book. Metropolis
There
2, the
also
book.
there also there isn't a lot to really draw from as far as Metropolis One. It's
As I
literally,
said, it's abstract.
well, yes, the lyrics to one song. In fact, we've talked about this before as a band, how when we had to make Metropolis Part 2, we had to really think of, creative ways to shoehorn in Metropolis Part 1 because it's such an abstract story.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And there's of course hardcore fans. So I'm just gonna bring in like a question because this is a question that goes again, and it's of course hardcore fans know this because it was public information already back in '99 that a big part of the inspiration for the story of Metropolis Part 2 was the movie Dead Again. So I want to ask both the band, of course, but also Peter, how you differentiate that movie and if how you kind of remove yourself from that legacy.
Well, let me just correct the record. Metropolis Part 2 wasn't influenced by Dead Again. Not at all. We wrote that whole, album and story and everything, and then we were like, oh my God, there's this movie Dead Again. Like it's like so similar. It was a complete coincidence. Yeah. So we weren't influenced or inspired by that movie. We never saw that movie. It was only after the fact that we were like, wow, this is like such a similar plot. That's crazy, but it's totally coincidental. Again, we weren't
drawn
because we hadn't seen it. We didn't know it existed.
Although I'm sure each and every one of us went and watched that movie.
Totally.
I know I did after I got asked that. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Totally.
Yeah. It was a good movie. Good movie.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the whole idea of that, because I wrote a novel when I was in college that was based upon the idea of genetic vampirism. And it was about, I didn't get it published or anything, but I'd written the book. A year later, a book came out by a writer that was the exact same idea.
Oh, wow.
Impossible for me to then sell it to a publisher.
Right.
That happens a lot more than where
I'm sure.
very similar stories. So I can tell you though, from my perspective, when I started digging in to do this research to write the book, if I had ever known that there was the movie Dead Again, I'd forgotten. So when I saw that crop up in my research, and I had never seen the film, I deliberately did not watch the movie.
Oh, nice.
Because I did not want to know what
Good
they
move.
did.
Yeah, man.
Smart.
So then I had this deadline to get the first draft done. I got it done. And that very next weekend, I was going to a family reunion. So I booted it up and I watched it on my flight. And I understand there's a mechanic around past life regression is where the similarity is. But I can
Yeah.
tell you that how the book evolves takes it in a very different direction. And so if people feel like they've seen the story because they've watched Dead Again, they'd be wrong.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Well said. Yes, I agree. 100%. Yeah. Cool.
So, I mean, now that you've written the book, would you be willing to have it made into a movie then?
That's up to the band. That's all them.
Anything's possible, Kim.
Yeah.
Well, having read the book, it should be made into a movie. Trust me, it's freaking brilliant. Really, it'd be a freaking awesome movie.
Yeah.
You know what? I was thinking. I knew that this question was coming, and I thought, Hollywood seems rife with reboots.
Yeah.
Like this would be like one of those times when the idea of doing a movie that had past life regression in it would be way better than anything that's been made before.
Yeah.
That's a bias of mine, but I get to be biased, I guess.
Yeah. That's cool. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking through like a lot of questions, and there's like other people asking like, what's the next book you're gonna album or song you're gonna make into a book? Like Octavarium, the book, or 6 Degrees.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what's interesting about this whole like genre of music, and I get really into this as a lyricist, is that storytelling side, because prog just lends itself to the song formats and such where you can tell stories. So yeah, we have an embarrassment of riches to choose from if we were to do some more.
Yeah, for sure.
I just got a comment because there's a guy now saying the Astonishing as a book would be good. Well, it is a book already. I have it in my hands. So I guess some people aren't that observant into what's happening. One thing I was thinking of, because this is something that has been a topic for some people for some reason. In Home, there's a sex scene. And there's actually been people trying to get a hold of the stems of Home to remove the sex scenes because they get embarrassed about the sex scene in the song because they don't want to play the song because
these are fans of Dream Theater.
Yeah.
What the hell? Holy shit! Wow.
So will they be embarrassed by sex scenes in the book as well?
No, I didn't. I would be hopeless as an erotic writer, so I didn't try that.
No. That's funny.
That's your next challenge, Peter. There you go.
I need some practical experience.
Oh my god. Yeah. Wow.
But it's quite strange. I've seen this question prop up a lot. Like, can we get some sexless Home? I'm like, wow. It's the part of the song.
To me, that's a strange comment, because I don't ever get that vibe very much. But maybe it's just me.
What was it? My connection is a little bit bad. I don't know if it's me, but I heard "Sexless Home," and I don't know what you're.
Yeah, the song "Home" without the sex bit in the instrumental section. There's actually people wanting to.
Yeah.
People want
the groaning and moaning.
They want a rated G.
Yeah,
the groaning and moaning.
They want a family-friendly version of it.
but there's so much more going on around that, like to just put your focus into that, Yeah, there's I don't just get those visuals. I get many visuals when that section of the song is going on. But hey, whatever. Maybe I'm part Mennonite or something like that. I don't know. That could be.
So, of course, when you made this album 25 years ago and played it countless times, was there ever like a thought inside between now and those 25 years where you thought actively about how this story should have been expanded and how like the world of Metropolis should be? Because of course you had both for the original Metropolis 2000 tour and for the uh, uh, tour of a couple of years ago where you did the entire album. You had video sequences that detailed parts of the story, and did that those thoughts where you try kind of want to know more about the world enter you into it?
I mean, you know what? I mean, this is how I'm going to answer that. Personally, until John and Peter started to talk about, and Peter had approached the band about doing a book. Up until that moment, and not that I didn't at times think, this is the kind of story that could be expanded upon and put into a book. But I really thought, like I said, up until this moment, that the album spoke for itself. The story was what it is, and that's what you should be taking from it, along with the compositions, with the music that surrounded it. So, John, I just briefly said, because I don't know if you went to McDonald's or something like that.
You know what, my
my
connection was so bad there. I had a
Yeah.
restart. Yeah. Sorry
But no, I was just saying that for me personally, I thought that the album had pretty much spoken the story exactly like I wanted it, up until the moment when Peter started to approach the band about expanding on that and putting it into a book form. So
Yeah.
that's the way that I personally felt about it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with writing the record and lyrics is that the song lyrics were written by different band members. So, you have basically the character names and the plot of the story. And then, we all went away. Okay, you write for this song, you write for this song. And so when you listen to it, it's not as cohesive as it could have been. So there's a lot of interpretation that has happened over the last 25 years, and rightfully so, because unless you're really, really working closely with one another, or if there's just one author, it's hard to keep like a thread in the story. So I think a lot of fans have been filling in the blanks for years and years and years, which is great. And I think that's awesome. And what Peter has done with this novel is, not only has he filled in the blanks, he's like, he's created, just an entire world and universe, like really just based on song lyrics to an album, which is incredible. And it's a testament to his creativity. And I think fans are really going to love that. And again, these things could be disputed too. You're going to get people that say, oh, that's not really the way it was. When they read the book, they're going to be like, that's not true. This guy was not that guy, and blah, blah, blah. And, I think it's fine to have those different interpretations of it. Again, I can't emphasize enough, the only thing we have to go by is our imaginations and the song lyrics, which song lyrics they're not very specific. They're more poetic to be sung. So people are basically going to get Peter Orullian's fill in the blanks version of the story. And it's incredible. His creative brain is just like a wonderland.
Yeah.
The thing I would add is, as a fan, I can also say, like, listening to the record and having the experience of this story, just listening to the record is sufficient. You don't have to do
Right.
any more
Right.
to have the entire 100% story and experience and beauty and wonder and thrill of it. As a fan, I believe that too. I think this is an expression of an expansion of the story for fans who might be interested in that. But if a fan came to me and somehow and said, I don't want it anymore, I just want to listen to the record, I applaud that just as easily as I say, I love it if you also read the book.
Right.
So I 100% agree. And John's right, like lyrics are figurative. So, 100 different people will tell you 100 different things about how they feel about it because they're
Yeah.
bringing their life's experience to something. And
Mhm.
so, I brought some of my life experience to it. The one thing I would say too about this is, and John knows this too from the work he did on Astonishing, is, you get maybe 90 minutes to craft a story that you're going to put on stage musically to represent something. So you have to use shorthand to communicate things. It's not like a novel where you've got 100,000 words to tell the story. So you necessarily have to have things to communicate very quickly an idea. With the book, it's not like that.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity with the book was to, like, as one example, in the book you have these lives coming into connection 70 years separated. So one question you get to explore in a novel is, well, how does that happen? Like, what's the rationale and logic behind that? In the experience of a record or a concert, you just stipulate to that being a true possibility. You just suspend disbelief and you go with it. But
Yeah.
one of the cool things with the book is
Mhm.
I got to create like these mechanisms for how this happens, and that's really fun stuff as a storyteller to explore.
It's true. And one of the things that's fun in these sort of brainstorming sessions that Peter and I had is, in the scenes from a memory story, there are some characters that aren't as um, they're not the main characters, but they make like a quick appearance. And what is fun to do is like take one of those characters. Well, maybe this person isn't just a passing character. Maybe they actually had a lot to do with this. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you can explore that person and
Right.
their history and their role in this whole story. And just expanding upon the little, bit of story and plot and character information we had and turning that into a novel. That was a lot of fun to have those conversations because all of a sudden you're like, wait, what if this guy was actually
Mhm.
this? And oh my God, then you start to like really get into it. And my wife and I, Raina and I, we just finished watching House of the Dragon last night, and I from what I understand, it's like based off of like a George R. R. Martin book. I think it was called Fire and Blood, but it was like
Yeah.
a book that he made that is like was supposed to be written by like a fictional writer or something. I don't know. So from what I understand, like that the writers of House of the Dragon like massively expanded on like very little information from that book, if
Yeah.
I got that right.
Yeah, because Fire and Blood is just basically a collection of stories about what happened with this person, or like
Right.
short stories,
Short
or not even
stories. So
stories, not even stories, like how you would find it in old classic history books.
there you go. Right. So
Yeah,
they had to make a whole they
Mhm.
had to produce a whole TV series and
yeah.
fill in the blanks, right? So I don't know, just when I heard that, it kind of reminded me of this sort of process.
And of course, one of the things that you will have to expand when you make a story like this is the motives behind each character, because in the album you don't really get the motive so
No.
much, because you can't express anything of what these characters are thinking beyond the short lines that are in the lyrics, and now you of course can in a long book, especially like the ending and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, that's it's Peter's creative license interpretation. You're going to get people that are going to be like,
Yeah,
that's not how I thought it ended. I thought this guy was this, you know what I mean? So, and that's fine. Like, I feel like there's so many different interpretations that could be written, you know, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is one of them. And it's official because Peter's working with the band, in that nature, but, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but this is one interpretation.
Yeah, you could,
Right?
like just I said before, you could have 100 writers write the book and it would come out 100 different ways. The spine, if they were, thoughtful writers, the spine would be the same, of course. And in my outline, I use a spreadsheet. I had a whole column where I literally had chapters that were based 100% on songs in the record, so that those beats as you're going through it's faithful there. But what you said's right. Like there's a lyric that James sings. I think it's in Through Her Eyes. That says, I've been given so much more in life. I've got a son, I've got a wife. That that lyric became a big deal for Nicholas in the book, and his motivation and building
Yeah.
his life and
Yeah.
what he cares about. And I did that all the time, where I would find one
Hmm.
small phrase, and I would both sometimes I would query John and I would say, hey, what exactly did you mean by this? And John would be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let me go back, and then he'd send me something. But I also, because I don't know, I'm an emotional person, I would very much listen to how James delivered the story, because as people who know me, I've interviewed James before. He does a really exceptional job at interpreting words and giving them an intimacy, or a brightness. And so for me, that's
Thank
I
you.
feel those things acutely. And so I mean, I wish I'd kept track, guys. I probably listened to the record at least 150 times in the process of writing the book, because I was just listening
Wow.
and
Wow.
listening. And one funny thing is over the course of the writing, I personally dreamed about Victoria 5 times.
That's
I'm
amazing.
right. Right.
That's a great,
It was at the front of your mind. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you bring
Yeah.
up like exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I've got a son, I've got a wife. It's like it's one line of a song. It's a passing notion. But all of a sudden, Peter's like, okay, there's two characters. Who is his son? What's the deal with his son? What's
Yeah.
the deal with his family? Who's his wife? Who is she? What's her motivation?
Hmm.
That's what
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about, where you could build on stuff that was just, quickly stated in a lyric.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That happened all the time.
And it does. It does happen, and it's great.
So
Yeah.
there,
Wow, man. Yeah.
there's a bunch of people asking how the book is structured. Is it like taking chapters from the song names and stuff like that, or is there a new structure to the
No,
story?
I know what you mean, because the songs have, they'll have a like scene one, and it'll have a song name. No, the structure of the book really simply is it's kind of written in alternating chapters between 1999 and 1928. And I spent a lot of time constructing the chapters so that as you move from one to the other, there was a kind of resonance between them. And so that's why that part took a long time, because I really wanted it to have a good flow.
Hmm.
But after my brainstorms with John, there was so much that could be done in the past, so that by the time you get to the murder scene, that's just fraught with emotion and tension, like, which is what you want. Um, and I had several beta readers on it. That's a process that writers will use to have early readers to give you feedback. And I had some of those who were Dream Theater fans. And one of the things that I did get back, which was gratifying, is they said, we knew the ending ostensibly because of the record, but there's some nice revelations in there, to help it feel a little fresh. So I'm hopeful that fans, even though they're going to know the murder scene's coming, there's some fun things that'll keep it sort of some aha moments as you go through the story.
Hmm.
And of course, there's some people asking how Dance of Eternity was adapted into the story because it's an instrumental.
That's a good question. I don't know. How'd you do it, Peter?
It was it was the same thing where it it was emotion. One of the things that John said to me after he finished reading it that was very gratifying, again, part of my spreadsheet process, is he said there was almost a flavor of adventure in the book. And so for me, when I was listening to the album, and there's places that are more aggressive, right? That there's more, the band's doing more stuff instrumentally. It gets me, it's my blood pumping, and I would use those sometimes in writing sessions to sort of fuel that. And so there's a lot of chapters in the book that are, it's because there's a whodunit factor, right? You're trying to discover the mystery of it. But I wanted there to be action. I wanted there to be things in there that would get your blood pumping. And so there was a lot of listening to the record where my response as a writer on the page was listening to what the band was doing, to create emotion and thrill with the music. And so that's where Dance, of Eternity would come in, because I listened to this. I mean, I love the record. Like I said, 150 times at least, because for months, it's all I was listening to. I lived and breathed this record and this story. Every time going to sleep, when I was eating, when I was driving in the car, I was making audio notes. Like, it's all I thought about for several months.
Amazing.
Wow.
So when you finished the first draft of the book, of course, first you had brainstorming sessions, and then you had the first draft. Was there a feedback loop after that where you changed or altered the story because of input from the band?
Yeah, I got some feedback from the band. Not like, volumes of it, but I got some things, and I went in and made some adjustments. And I also, I use professional editors, and I had several of those people who work on big best-selling writers. So I had a huge amount of input to both from people who knew the story, which was really valuable, but also from people who didn't, so that people, because my hope is that people who could come and read this book who don't know the record and love the story. And my secret, like, little desire is that then they go check out Dream Theater's music. So maybe I could create a handful of new fans. I don't know.
That's awesome.
I did have a lot of input from a lot of different sources that are very familiar, and some who weren't, so that their feedback was unbiased. It was just like, is the story good? Is this working? Is this not working? So
Nice.
It went through the same rigor that any book that gets published anywhere went through.
Cool.
It's the only way to do it.
Only way.
Yeah.
One of the things that people have asked is like the whole overarching theme in Metropolis and Metropolis Part 2 kind of makes it fit with the Astonishing. Is the Astonishing now a part of the Metropolis extended universe?
Well, that's a great question, and it's something where when Peter and I were having these conversations, the Astonishing is based on a dystopian future, and wouldn't it be interesting if some of the seeds of things that eventually led to that, even though it's way far in the future, that you could find those little Easter eggs in this book, and like you said, it's like a Dream Theater universe,
Yeah.
Everything's connected. So we certainly had those conversations, and that is certainly part of our thinking. I don't know how much Peter wants to reveal that's actually in that, or if people can just sort of figure it out for themselves. But that's a great I love that question, and it's right where our minds went too, because they're not connected stories, but maybe they could be, and then we were just thinking about all these things, the monster universe and the Marvel universe, Star Wars, it's like, hey, this is what dreams are made of.
Yeah.
So the opportunity is certainly there, and we Peter did take advantage of that in little ways that I think people will be able to find on their own.
Yeah.
It's like an onion.
You're right.
I spent
it smells. It tastes really good.
Makes your eyes water. It's I spent a lot of time layering things in. So there's a superficial level of sort of recognition of the fact that there's this world that Dream Theater has created, that it tells stories in. And then if you really plumb the depths, and I'm sure there'll be some fans that do, you'll find more and more of that. But it's the idea, John said it, I think, or maybe James, or both of them, intellectual properties like Marvel and DC, they create these universes
Mhm.
and they tell all kinds of stories. And if you watch them enough, you start to see these little echoes, these little ties, but they're not dependent on each other. And so we did talk a lot about that. And in fiction land, we call those story hooks. And so they're not necessary to enjoy this book, but for Dream Theater, like deep in the weeds fans, there's story hooks that can connect this to probably more stories than we will all live long enough to tell.
Mhm. Yeah.
Connect all of the song lyrics from the Dream Theater into one big.
Yeah, right.
So since
6 seasons. Yep.
since this then is an expanded universe, and of course in the Marvel universe, Stan Lee appeared in the movies. Does Dream Theater appear in the book?
No comment.
Okay.
No, I did not. I did they not as themselves. But I would be lying if I didn't say that I thought about the guys in the band as I was thinking about some of the people to populate the story with, you know. But not expressly. Like James Labrie does not enter in a scene and sing a song and step off.
Even if you'd asked me. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, we got to do some important questions. When is the book coming out?
Yes. Well, I believe we're still on target for our the anniversary of the release of Scenes from a Memory, and I want to get the date right. It's October 26th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's the target. How we doing with the target, Peter?
We're doing good. Yeah, the book is
All right.
in layout, and then it'll go into printing. And so then we'll start shipping those books to all of the people who pre-ordered. And I think I hope it's okay, but we're like working really hard to get books to the Dream Theater camp so that if they want to use them on tour, that's an option for them.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So our plan is to have them available at our merch stands, and of course, the first show of the next tour is October 20th. So that's almost a week before the official release. So if fans are at any of the shows from the UK up until the 26th, I believe we have a couple of shows in Germany and Italy.
Yeah.
They'll be able to get their hands on the book before it actually officially comes out.
And they'll be able to spoil the story for everyone else.
Yeah, they'll be able to
I remember so strongly. There was this. Remember Harry Potter books when they were coming out?
Yeah.
There's like one book. Spoiler for those who haven't read or seen the movies, but in one of the books, Dumbledore dies.
Right.
And
man!
And at the actual book release of that book, there were guys driving past the queue, like thousands of people in a queue.
No.
Driving past and yelling out the window, Dumbledore dies!
Oh no, that's horrible.
Freaking people.
Oh my god.
Well,
oh my god. What a hero.
This one, Victoria dies. It's in it's the fans know that.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise there.
Yeah.
But there is some stuff in there that I worked pretty hard to have there be some moments for fans who know the story so well that could be still kind of surprising. So hopefully they won't do the Dumbledore thing. Spoil those.
Well, the safety for that is just don't go online.
Yeah.
Don't go out and walk around in the streets with earplugs in.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get around that.
I'll just put up the link to the pre-order sites for those who haven't seen it, so they can go and get that order in. I don't know if the limited edition still is available or if you pulled that.
Yeah, we talked about this, and one of the things we decided to print some extras of that volume because we've had so many fans respond so well to it, so that we would have some to continue to be able to sell. So there still are some, and I have to tell you, this just came in yesterday. I'm traveling right now, but the final art came in, and I just think it's so beautiful. And the art is one of the features of the collector's edition, but there's a couple of artists in France who did the art for this, and I just think it's gorgeous.
Yeah. So speak a little bit about that. What is the extra things that you get in the limited edition? Because it's, of course, it's the story itself, but there's also some extra, like,
Yeah, so
goodies.
there's 5 original pieces of art to depict scenes inside the book. Some of these are the scenes that are right on the record. Um, and we thought a lot about those to sort of even, it's really interesting the software they have now where they can pivot the angle. So the artists, we would do Zoom sessions where they would have sort of designed the scene with all the characters, and they could literally in real time show me and pivot the camera angle so that I could pick the exact angle to get the characters right where I wanted to see them. So a lot of time to do that for those. And then what they call the end papers, as you open the book and close the book, are just like the Astonishing, where it's full color. And so it's 2 depictions of Metropolis, one from 1928, one from 1999. Those are just beautiful. So it's all of this color art is a big part of it. The book itself has a really beautiful binding to it. It's what they call Smith sewn. Um, the paper is a heavier paper. It's a thicker paper. I'm forgetting a bunch of the things. It's on that link that you just sent, but the artifact itself is a collectible artifact. It's all of the quality and product design that goes into collector's editions of books. And the other thing is we only are going to print so many of those. So but John, one of the things we also talked about is we wanted also for there to be the straight ahead trade paperback version for people who just want to get in and get the story. So those are both available. If you want a collectible, that's great. If you just want the story, the paperbacks got the story, and you can get either one.
Yeah, and Peter's going to hand sign all of them. Is that correct?
I am. All
Yeah.
of the pre-orders are coming to a warehouse. I'm going to spend a day signing books. My hand's going to be aching, but those will all be signed. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. Because this is, of course, the Astonishing, the limited edition. So just to say, show how the signed version looks like.
Yeah. So there'll be a line on it that will tell you which volume number you've purchased, so that it shows you which you've collected. I don't know if I told you this, John, a number of people who have the limited edition Astonishing had pre-ordered the Scenes limited edition or collectors, and they want the same number. As a
Oh,
collector, they
interesting.
want the same number
wow.
volume.
Wow.
So I've had some people that have wanted that. Yeah, so that's we've had a lot of enthusiasm for it. And the other thing I will say is the Astonishing was about 70,000 words. This book is 98,000 words. So this story, the novel, is actually longer. But the reason for that is because we decided to tell the two halves of the story. Nicholas and Victoria. So
Cool.
That's a hell of a lot of words, man.
yeah, it's a
Wow.
full reading experience. I mean,
Yeah.
most novels, they average 90,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to create one of my funnest villains. There's a villain in this that was so much fun to write. He's such a cantankerous old coot.
Love it.
So yeah,
That's
I
great,
think
man. That's
people will
great.
have some fun with some
Oh
of it.
yeah. Yeah.
There's a guy asking Peter specifically, if I have the number in the Astonisher book, can I email you now and get the same number?
Yeah, for sure.
So Lucas, you can email him and get the same number as you have on the Astonishing.
It's kind of a big deal to collectors. That's why
Yeah.
we mentioned that, I think, when we put the page up, is collectors sometimes like to have the same volume number.
So we've already come up on an hour. Time flies when you're having
Wow.
fun. So,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to ask just a simple question to John and James. How's the preparation for the tour going? How's the like Dream Theater world now preparing for tour and albums and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's a busy. It's been a busy year. We've been hard at work, obviously on the new record, and people will get more information about the new album as far as when it's going to be released and everything associated with it in the near future. So all that stuff will be unfolding, and in the meantime, we have our 40th anniversary world tour.
Yeah.
Beginning, the first show is October 20th at the O2 in London. And then we play throughout Europe. We have shows in South America and beyond in 2025. And yeah, we're I guess we're shifting to tour preparation mode.
I'm already going through the set list. I don't know about you, John. Well, yeah, I'm already going through and memorizing lyrics, and yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's actually a question.
Tour.
That's actually a question I saw somebody ask in relation to this chat. If you guys know all the songs by heart, and of course I know because I've spoken to you about this before, but people think that you actually know all the songs all the time, and you actually have to go and relearn the songs, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's
I'm not in the same boat there, John, but because you're talking instrumentally too, right?
Sorry, my connection is bad.
Oh,
apologies.
Did you hear me, John?
I'm gonna try. Hold on a second.
All right.
It's a huge catalog. We're thinking about James. Like if you tried to spring a set list on James over 16 albums, and I don't think there's a person on the planet who could just do without having to go back and relearn.
Okay, apologies.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, well, I was just saying, John. Like with me personally, I mean, it's totally different for the other four guys because the instrumentation is just ridiculous. But with me, once I sing the first line, pretty much the rest of the song just falls into place for me. And it's just the odd time where I'll go, oh, what was that? What was that lyric? And wait a minute, how long was, the segue between these two sections, and then going back into it. But for the most part, I mean, it all comes really, really fast to me.
Wow.
And
I'm jealous.
I'm just, hey, listen, I know I'm in a real fortunate situation here because I know you guys got to put ridiculous amounts of time.
Well, Portnoy, Mike is the same way. He says he could just get up on his drums and play this.
That's true.
What did he play? He did that Drumeo thing, and he played Dance of Eternity. He's like, oh, I haven't played this in for many years. I'm like,
yeah, right.
I hate you.
Crazy.
I literally, I mean, some of the Dream Theater songs we've played, so many times over the years that it does come back very, very quickly, or I could just play it. But man, if there's material that we haven't played in a long time, or that we never played, or that's super long epics or something, I literally I got to sit down, and it's like I'm relearning all the parts and how I did it, and I'm scratching my head. How did I play that riff? What It's pretty crazy. It's a process. It takes months for me.
I'm not trying to make you feel worse about that, but while you're doing that, I'll be having a Guinness.
I'm sure you will. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, man. The interesting thing is, for every new album, there comes the point where, okay, now not only have you never played this song live, but in a lot of cases, the band never played the song really as a band, because it's being written in the studio, and you're layering parts, and it's piecemeal, and it's not like you're sitting there playing the new song over and over, and then okay, hit record.
Yeah.
like we never have played it yet. So then you have that experience. Okay, well, what did I do on this new album? How did I play it? And now what is this going to sound like when we all go and try to play it together as a band? So that's
and you know what's crazy about that, John, is like back in the 70s, and I'm sure some bands still do it today. But back in the 70s, bands would write songs on the road and then play them live and check them out.
Right.
And then by the time they got in the studio, they'd already played it like 50 times.
Totally.
And then they recorded it. Like nowadays, if you did that, they go, "Well, I know that's going to be on the new album. I know that's going to," it's just it's impossible. They'd already have their recordings.
Be leaked on YouTube 20 times already.
Yeah, that's why you can't do that anymore.
No.
Which means that no new songs from the new album will be played on the new tour, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see where we're at. But,
yeah. Hey, can I say one last thing before we? I just want this in the public record. There's a lot of writers for whom the opportunity to maybe write for Star Wars or Star Trek or any number of IP is a holy grail. The honor, I felt so much honored to get to work with Dream Theater to do this book. I mean, I got, of course, to do The Astonishing, but it's just a highlight of my career to get an opportunity to do something creative that ties my friendship with these gentlemen to music that has been like the soundtrack of my life. And so I wanted to say, I'll see you guys on the road someplace probably next year, but before the book's out, face to face, I wanted to tell you thank you and how honored I am to have been able to be a part of this in this little way.
That's awesome, man. You're very welcome, and we're honored to have you as the writer.
Yeah,
because you're incredible.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's an hour. I think we covered a lot of interesting topics. Thank you all for coming to this live Q&A. I didn't bring so many questions in from the chat like I used to because it's very hard to keep attention to the chat and trying to bring them in as well. But I tried to bring as much questions from the audience as I could.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for moderating this, Kim Arthur. Always good to see you.
Kim.
Appreciate it. And thanks for everything you do in the Dream Theater world.
Yeah. It's an honor for me to be able to work for you like I done for 25 years as we spoke.
Amazing. Again, we're honored to have you.
Yeah, no, that's
amazing.
Awesome, man.
Wow.
So and I'll see you soon when you come to Europe.
Not too soon. I got to learn the songs.
Yeah.
Every time somebody says that, hey man, it's just around the corner, I go, stop saying that.
Stop saying
that stuff.
I'm getting anxiety over here. I got to go practice. See you later.
Okay, in a couple of months or maybe half a year
there
or so.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for this stream. See you later.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.